If you're wanting to play like this, but instead it's sounding like this, then you're in the right place today. If you're a self-taught beginner drummer in need of a better feeling hi-hat 16th Moeller pattern, then let's dive in. Most drummers believe you need a very loose, delicate kind of grip in order to play quick, light, flowing 16ths on the hi-hats. But today I'll argue that actually you need a firmer, more controlled grip. I'll explain to you what I mean by this. Today I'll break down for you my 3 steps to a smoother Moeller pattern on the hats. You'll discover why the arm-wrist motion is critical to actually doing this smoothly, and you'll also learn the powerful role that your ring and pinky fingers play in keeping this motion very steady and smooth. Today you'll go from frustrated with a sloppy, choppy Moeller pattern to confident and capable as your groove begins to feel more professional and more effortless. You can do this. Hey, welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that you can nail songs and sound awesome with a band and be the drummer other people want to play with and want to jam with. And hey, if you're struggling to know what to practice, or you're practicing a lot of things that you've collected from a lot of different resources, but you just feel stuck, like you're not really growing, I have a free gift for you that's gonna help you out a bunch. It is my Know What to Practice daily 30-minute practice routine PDF e-guide, totally free, in the description below. And what it does is it gives you the boiled down core essentials that you need to work on regularly to make sure that you're getting consistent, automatic, predictable results in your drumming, so that you're not overwhelmed, you're not having to make decisions about what to practice, and instead, you're just growing automatically every day. Total no-brainer to grab this because it's free and it's going to help you out a bunch. So go grab it in the description. All right, on with today's lesson. As a beginner and kind of into intermediate territory, I pretty quickly got my Moeller together, not where it was sounding good, but where I was just hammering it out. So I was basically playing stuff like this. And I was, using the edge of the stick down here and just just hammering it out and banging away. And that was pretty much what my Moeller sounded like for the first few years of my drumming. And eventually, a few years into playing it, even starting to play professionally, I was just listening to it and like, this is not as smooth as I want it to be. This is still kind of choppy. It's just not sounding as smooth as the Moeller patterns I hear on my favorite records. And so I started observing some of the drumming greats and what they were doing and what their hi-hat sounded like and where they were placing their stick and what they were doing with their hand. And I started making some changes, and that was a huge turning point in my playing. So today I'm going to share with you what those changes were and how I was able to refine my motion to basically go from this to, which, by the way, you can still play smoothly loudly, but you'll find that a lot of times when you get softer, things naturally get smoother. So there's some foreshadowing for where we're going today. But hey, before we dive into the action steps, a concept I want to plant in your head, and I hope this is an encouraging word for you. This was definitely true for me. It's true for many of my students, and it very well could be true for you too. You may have to build strength first in order to play one-handed hi-hat 16ths smoothly and quickly. So it's very possible that your Moeller pattern is going to need to sound bad before it can sound good. It may need to sound like this before it can sound like. It may need to be where it just sounds cumbersome before it can sound. Because a lot of times strength precedes smoothness. I know we don't want it to be that way, and I know with drumming growth, we want everything to be this nice, smooth, linear climb. But a lot of times things just have to, you just got to throw it out there and just get something going to then polish and refine it. The same is definitely true with kick drum technique, where if you're struggling with kick drum speed, odds are you need to get really comfortable just going like that before you can then go play stuff like, and play those kinds of, bottom triplets. A lot of times the strength and just the hammering it out has to happen first. That's definitely true with Moeller, and that was true in my experience, where I had to get to where I was just doing it before I could refine it. So I say that to say, be encouraged, know that sometimes this just has to sound bad before it can sound good. But hey, we're going to do our best to get it sounding good as quickly as possible. So let's dive into the 3 steps to a smoother Moeller hi-hat pattern. Step number 1, do the arm-wrist motion. So there's a million ways to articulate this, and there's also a million different techniques out there. I'll also give you that disclaimer that if you go and you watch every great drummer do some sort of, you're going to see 1,000 techniques. And either it will confuse you and make you want to give up because you'll be like, I can't possibly learn all these ways, or it will encourage you that there's a lot of different ways to do this. And so the way that I'm teaching you today does not look just like Jeff Porcaro. It does not look just like Paul Mabry or Aaron Sterling, some of my favorite drummers. Every great drummer out there is achieving a smooth hi-hat pattern, but they're rarely are they all doing it the same way because our hands are all different. And so my goal today is to give you some good concepts and to show you the specific ways I'm doing it, but know that this is not the only way, and you're going to see different ways out there. The way I like to teach this, though, is the arm-wrist motion, and there's a lot of ways to articulate this, but this seems to have stuck with students recently because really what we're doing is kind of this two-in-one motion where we're using our arm for the first note and then wrist for the second. So that it is essentially one fluid motion. And we're striking the edge with the first note and then more the top for the second note. Now don't get hung up on the details of, okay, are we hitting the top for the second note or are we right here for the second note? The whole point is steeper angle, shallower angle, loud, soft, loud, soft. So you might choose to do your loud with the shoulder of the stick like this, and then your soft with the tip on the surface like this. Or you could do your loud a little bit more digging in, and your soft could be kind of the neck of the stick on the edge. It all depends on how loud you're playing, and ultimately I'm going to encourage you to play this soft, medium, and loud, and you'll see how it feels different, and you position your stick different based on how loud or soft you play. But know that the gist of it is we want to hit the edge for the loud note, and then probably hit the top, or at least, you know, much more of a small kind of note when we hit more softly for the soft note. And we want to make sure we have our hats not super tight, because if we play it like this, if I press down with my leg and I go, you hear how it just sounds choked out? And to my ears, I don't know if you hear this, if you're listening through headphones, maybe you will, there's kind of this ringy hum that the hi-hats produce when they're closed really tight. And it's annoying. It's not musical. But that's because I'm pressing down with all my leg weight. We don't want to do that. Instead, rest your heel down. So you just have your heel down. You're just resting on the hi-hat stand. You're not thinking about closing it. You're just letting it be closed by the weight of your leg, but your heel is down. And that'll give it the right amount of looseness. So you can still wiggle it like this. That's going to sound so much better than. So our goal is not tightness, our goal is smoothness. And if you give the note a little bit of thickness, that helps a lot too. So we want to be positioning our stick like this, arm, wrist, arm, wrist. And as we're doing the wrist, our arm is going up, right? Because we got to be prepared for the next one. And so it's down, up, down, up, down, up, arm, wrist, arm, wrist, arm, wrist. So just practice this really slow with no metronome at first so you can start getting used to what it feels like and paying attention to steady dynamics and steady time, making sure that each loud note is loud, each soft note is really soft, and then making sure it's in time. Something I'm always encouraging my students to do is practice stuff really slow, but also see how fast you can go, like just for fun. Let's see. See how fast you can go, even if it gets messy. That's okay. There's no rule that says you can't go as fast as you want to. The problem is when you only practice really fast and you fail to ever practice something slow. So as long as you're doing both, feel free to push the speed limit. Like, see, how fast can I go today? Okay, that's a mess. But I'm going to continue practicing it slowly, methodically, so I can get this really steady. So have a decent range of tempos. What we can do right now is set our metronome to 50. 50 beats a minute sounds like this. Very slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and But that's a really good goal starting tempo. Set your metronome to eighth notes at 50, or you can just set it to quarter notes at 100, and practice just playing along smoothly. Chun, 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 chun. If it's not there yet, if it's not happening, turn the metronome off. Go really slow. Arm, wrist, arm, wrist, arm, wrist. Pay attention to where you're landing here. Make sure your angle's not too steep. That'll make it choppy. Be nice and shallow. It might mean you need to lower your hi-hats a little. Maybe your hi-hats are too high because you're trying to play like a rock drummer and you're way up here and it's all wacky. Lower your hi-hats if you need to so it can be a more relaxed angle. You can see where mine are at. With a Vic Firth stick sitting on my snare, the hats are about at the F. And I wouldn't mind them being a hair lower. If I'm playing really hard and heavy, I think it's nice having them a little higher. But if I were playing lightly, I'd go an inch lower. I think you can't go wrong with that because the shallow angle helps us be smoother. If you want that Jeff Porcaro Africa kind of sound, or that Rosanna sound, it's very much this light kind of on top sound, not digging into the edge. And so that's what you'll find. You'll get more of that buttery smooth sound if you're dealing closer to the end of the stick at a shallow angle rather than deep down on the stick at a steep angle. This is where we want to hit for playing an open note, like that. Because you can really put a lot of emphasis into the hi-hat sound if you really dig in. But for the closed notes, you want to be more like this. So hopefully that's clear. Hopefully that makes sense. Practice softly, medium, loudly, and see if you can work up to 70 beats a minute. So if we set our metronome to 70, here's what 70 sounds like. But practice it really quiet. Medium, loudly. And what you're going to find in doing that is that you have rushing or dragging tendencies at different dynamics and different tempos. As you widen that tempo range, as you deepen that dynamic range, you'll find, hey, when I get soft, it rushes. A lot of times that's what happens. The way we remedy that is step number 2. Use your ring and pinky fingers to control the timing. So back at the beginning, I talked about how we need to use a firm, controlled kind of grip. And the reason why I say this is, so there are a lot of drummers out there that do a French grip kind of thing, and you can make that work. I've never done French grip on the hi-hat because to me it makes more sense to be French grip on the right side of the kit and allow my wrist to rotate. It makes for a more natural back and forth motion. So it's never felt right to me to do a thumbs up French grip on the hi-hat. However, Paul Mabry does it. If you look him up, Nashville session drummer. Jeff Porcaro, the late great Jeff Porcaro. If you look up old videos of like him playing with Toto in the 80s or early 90s, you see him doing a very like delicate kind of light, almost a thumbs up, but like not exactly what I'm doing. So these guys have their way of doing it and it works great for them. I'm showing you what works great for me. You might agree with me, you might not. But to me, I would rather be thumbs up on the right side, rotate to more of a palms down right here, so then I can whip back and forth more easily. It makes for a more natural motion across the kit. So in doing that, what we have to make sure that we do is not neglect the power of our ring finger and our pinky finger to actually stabilize this whole stroke. Because what I see happen a lot of times, and this has happened with me too if I'm playing softly. You know what's happening there? The stick is actually, like there's too much downward pressure that's causing the quiet note to happen too soon. So we're getting gukka, 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 instead of gukka, gukka, gukka. So what we can actually do to remedy that is grip more loosely right here at the fulcrum point. But in order to do that, we have to have the ring and the pinky catching the stick back here. This is what's really interesting about grip. I don't know if you've ever thought about this or tried to feel this out in your hand. But if you were to not use these fingers, you have to pinch more tightly to compensate for that, which creates too much downward pressure. And then you end up feeling like you're flailing or you're T-Rexing as you move around the kit. And so it doesn't work. I was guilty of this as a beginner. I was always sticking fingers out. Then I learned, I remember I've had teachers, pound this into my head over the years. Oh, if you wrap your ring and your pinky around the stick gently, not tightly, we're not, squeezing it. But if they're there, it actually affords you the ability to grip more loosely right here at your fulcrum and even let the index hang out a little bit, which is a magical shift because suddenly then, well, we still have the firmness, we still have the control, but we've actually gotten looser. And so that's what that meant when I said that back at the beginning. We actually need a more firm, controlled kind of grip. Well, in a way, we're more loose, but we're more firm and controlled. And that's the magical thing about doing more of a middle finger fulcrum where we're actually gripping right here. We're letting this finger be loose, and then we're making sure these fingers catch it. And so it gives us the ability to not go because it's super loose and relaxed, so we're not rushing that note, and we're able to stabilize the whole motion that way. With these fingers sticking out, it sounds like this. And it's really hard to avoid that. But then with these fingers wrapped around, especially if I let my fulcrum be right here, I let the index hang loose, suddenly it all just falls into place. And so even as I go really fast, I'm feeling the stick on my ring finger and pinky finger every time, and it's kind of just loosely floating in my hand like this, but all fingers are making contact with it. So that is just as important as the motion itself. This is kind of a two-step, two-part thing we've done so far, where first we said, okay, arm, wrist, arm, wrist. We talked about stick placement, getting it fine-tuned. But now grip is everything. We could have covered this first. It's kind of the more boring thing, so I didn't do it first. But grip is really critical, making sure, okay, we're doing middle finger fulcrum, we're letting index be loose, we're letting the stick kind of just float loosely in the hand like this. Like this is kind of what it's doing. It's like the old trick my dad used to do when I was a kid, where you get a pencil and like shake the pencil like this, and it looked like it was bending because your eyes play tricks on you. You can do the same thing with a drumstick. If you go like this, it looks like the stick is all flexible and bending. And that's kind of how we want to grip in doing this. So it's like this loose yet firm and controlled. And so it allows us to get pretty fast. Now you'll find as you start getting faster, sometimes the quiet note doesn't even happen. I've always noticed that in my playing, and Aaron Sterling actually mentioned one time in a clinic or a video or something, he was like, yeah, sometimes when I get going with my Moeller, the soft note doesn't even happen. It's more about the motion and getting that feel, and sometimes the soft note's just not there. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm not the only one. One of the best drummers in the world has the same thing. But you'll notice that as you start getting faster, the only difference that I did, I gradually curved my index around just to firm it up just a little bit, but it's still not tight. There's still a lot of room for the stick to wiggle in my hand, and then all fingers were still in contact. And so what I found, you can be very loose up here when you're going slowly, and gradually firm up a little bit. As you get faster, firm up a little bit, because we're also getting softer, but we're never getting tight. And then repetition is key, just practicing this over and over and over again. Which now leads us into step 3 of build your Moeller into a groove. Kind of like what we just started doing, because none of this is any good if we can't actually, do it with kick and snare. So first thing I want you to do is just add in, you can actually, I love practicing Moeller to just a cross stick, because it's nice and quiet and I can really just listen to what my hi-hat's doing. So kick on 1 and 3, cross stick on 2 and 4, or you can do a normal snare hit, doesn't matter. But just practice doing a simple money beat with Moeller 16ths. But what you're going to quickly find is that you're limited with what you can do if you're not able to play a kick or snare note on a 16th offbeat. What do I mean by that? So what if you wanted to play those kick notes were on offbeats? They were on E's and U's, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4, which means we're lining up kick or snare notes with soft notes in our Moeller pattern, which is pretty weird. So practice just doing that. And instead of doing this right here, practice playing on the offbeats and going and lining up a loud kick note with a soft hi-hat note. It's going to mess with your brain. It's going to mess with your ear, because you're hitting the snare, hitting the kick during the soft note here. You're going to want to go, or you're going to want to flip it upside down. Don't do it. Make sure you stick to it and go. then it's virtually limitless what you can play. And so that's really the key coordination thing to practice. Once you get this motion happening, get the snare and the kick to line up with the offbeat, so then you can start playing syncopated grooves. Now, there's obviously more we can talk about here in regards to building coordination with your Moeller pattern. We have other lessons on this that I'll link below. But hey, I want to give you some songs to check out because the best way to really get good at a smooth Moeller pattern is listening to it a lot, knowing like what is it supposed to sound like, what's a good Moeller pattern supposed to sound like in the context of music, but also playing along to songs and playing along to great drummers with great Moeller patterns. So here's a few songs. We're going to go in tempo order from fastest to slowest. These are just some of my favorites that are always top of mind. Typical by Mute Math. Now this one is fast. It's 97 beats a minute. And so in the verse of this song, you hear Darren King playing something like, I don't know if that's exactly 97. I don't have the metronome in my ears, but it's about that fast. It's a fast closed hi-hat pattern in the verse of Typical. Very cool. Check it out. It's an amazing drum part song. If you're a beginner, don't sweat the fact that it's beyond your reach right now. This was beyond my reach for years. So know that, okay, that's your top end reference. This is just to show you what can be done and what this can sound like. A little bit slower, Africa by Toto, Jeff Porcaro. This one's about 91, 92 beats a minute. I don't think they recorded it to a click, but it's somewhere in that range. And so this one has kind of that feeling. So it's still pretty quick, 92 beats a minute. It'll take some time to build up to that, but it's a great goal song and it's a really fun one to play. Church Bells by Carrie Underwood. This one's pretty cool. I don't know for sure who played drums on this, but this one's 87 beats a minute. And most of the song is about it's a pretty loud, strong hi-hat pattern. So it becomes a really good workout song. You know, Africa is more light. But I think Church Bells is somewhere like that. And like it's pumping the whole way through. So a great song to work up to, 87 beats a minute. But now getting a little bit slower, at least getting down into the 70s, Use Me by Will Withers is a great 78 beats a minute. Real funky, real fun to play along to. Use Me is a really great goal song to work up to as you work on getting your Moeller smooth. Now, when you're just starting out, you need a really slow song. Here's a good one, Faithful by Brooke Fraser. This one's pretty obscure. This is a singer-songwriter album from 2006, but it happens that my all-time favorite drummer, Aaron Sterling, played on it. 64 beats a minute. When the drums come in, it starts off just a piano and vocal, but then when the drums come in, I think on the first chorus, it feels about like this. A little bit of a light ghosting pattern, but it's so slow and laid back and relaxed. This is a great one for playing along to as a beginner when you're first getting this motion down and you're just trying to relax it, not play it too loud, and get it smooth. And you can listen to yourself and go, okay, in this song, it's not going to sound right to go. Instead, if I go, much lighter, and you'll notice as you play lighter, it feels smoother. The secret to a Jeff Porcaro kind of hi-hat sound and something that's very smooth and light and quick, it's just not playing hard. Yeah, there are some songs where it is heavier and it's more of that pumping sound like in Church Bells by Carrie Underwood, but so many other songs it's just not loud, and you'll find if you go quieter, it affords you the ability to go faster. And there is a human limit to how fast you can go when you're really loud. You have to get softer to go faster because we're not robots and we can't just go and go crazy through it without hurting ourselves. And so know that you don't have to get this really loud and really fast. Back what we said back at the beginning, you might need to get it sloppy and just happening first, so then you can refine it. Sometimes you just got to go for it. You just got to do it. And then be patient with it sounding bad, knowing you're building the strength, you're refining things, and then gradually you can get it sounding much more polished. So what have we accomplished here? Well, just a little bit of review. You've learned the arm wrist motion so that you can get the motion happening that makes this a 2 for the price of 1 type of motion. And then you've used your ring and your pinky finger to help catch the stick so that you can be loose in the fulcrum, but the shaft of the stick is loose in your hand, making contact with all your fingers so that it can become very natural, even while being firm and controlled. And then you've built your Moeller into a groove. You've practiced lining up the soft notes on offbeats with kick and snare on the offbeats, so you can start building this into a groove. Plus, you got some cool songs to go check out. So this is awesome. Even if you're a total beginner, you've got some things to grab onto here. And so my goal for you is that you're able to start playing more quickly, more smoothly, more effortlessly and musically, and maybe even be able to do all of this quicker than I did. I think I was 6 or 7 years into my playing before I really got this polished, and so hopefully you can do it faster than I can. Hey, I believe in you if you don't. I know that if you take action, you can absolutely do this with a little bit of patience. Remember, it might need to sound bad before it sounds good, but you're gonna get it there. So hey, question before you go. What is your favorite song that has one-handed hi-hat 16ths? I think my go-to is probably Africa by Toto. That's a good one. Rosanna by Toto is another good one. That one has swung 16ths. So instead of, with Rosanna, it's, so we get that kind of shuffled feeling, the halftime shuffle feel. So that's a even more challenging example, but I think Jeff Porcaro was the master of this, and so anything that he played on is going to be an amazing example of this. So tell me what your favorite song is that has Moeller-style one-handed 16ths. All right, I hope this lesson's been valuable to you. Be sure to grab the Know What to Practice PDF guide so that you can spend less time in the practice room, but actually grow faster. Not that I want you to practice less, but if you've been practicing for hours and you're stuck and you're not growing, so many people are in that place where actually they need to subtract a lot of things and just focus in on the few important things, because you can grow a lot in 30 minutes a day. It's not more stuff, it's the important stuff. When you focus on the core important things, you're going to grow faster, and that's what this guide teaches you to do. So you've got a core practice routine that automatically delivers results. So be sure to grab that in the description. Have a lot of fun. Know that you can do this. I'll see you on the next lesson. Stay non-glamorous.